Here's a concise summary of the Ward's Auto article. Dealers use aggressive strategies and tech tools to move aged inventory. Published April 2nd, 2025, by Alicia Webb. Auto dealers are increasingly focused on managing aged inventory, vehicles that remain unsold for 60-plus days, used, or 100-plus days, new, using a mix of discipline, data, and digital tools to improve turn rates and protect profit margins. Key strategies in use. Rick Case Automotive Group, Florida, enforces a firm directive to push inventory over 120 days, issues bi-monthly reports to monitor aging vehicles, uses aggressive pricing, showroom visibility, and regular reminders to reduce stale inventory. Shaver Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, California, walks the lot weekly to inspect, identify, and spiff, incentivize unsold units, uses LotPop's Lot Walk platform for digital inventory insights and follow-up tracking, prioritizes lead follow-up before discounting aged vehicles. Tech-driven tools, helping dealers. Vaudo's Conquest platform tracks real-time incentives, helps identify aging units, and triggers pricing adjustments. CDK Global emphasizes the importance of matching shopper demand with available stock to retain sales. Why it matters: aged inventory ties up capital and incurs floor plan interest costs, especially harmful in today's high-interest environment. Improper stocking signals poor demand alignment and leads to missed customer sales and reduced satisfaction. Pro tip from dealers: rather than just slashing prices, review sales leads and unfinished negotiations on each aged unit first. Sometimes a deal is just a phone call away. Let me know if you'd like a version customized for internal dealership training or a visual checklist for inventory managers.
Ships have faced many challenges that machine learning can solve. Let's say you take in 100 leads this month. The problem is that 40 are on the same unit. That unit sells, and you mark the other 39 leads as dead, but the 39 buyers are still alive, actively searching. Machine learning uncovers fresh customer insights from new active search data, automatically retargeting your leads with other relevant stock. And like magic, dead leads come back to life. It's all inside the machine.
You're watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for joining me on Inside Automotive here at CBT News. Today we are joined by Jeffrey Pohanka, NADA board member and chairman of Pohanka Automotive Group, and Cameron Johnson, who's the chairman and CEO of Magic City Automotive Group. Today, gentlemen, we want to talk to you about this pending tariff situation that President Trump is so passionate about. Looks like it's going to take shape right now on April 2nd. Assuming that there's no changes, and with, as you know, with President Trump, maybe there's a last minute change on that. But assuming for the moment that there's not going to be, I'd like to get your feelings on this and what you think the short-term and long-term impact will be on the industry that we're all in. So Jeff, let me start with you. Talk to us about this. When these things come about in the industry, we've been through so many things now in the industry. What's the first thing that comes to mind? What are your concerns out there as it relates to these tariffs?
Clearly, there's disruption in the marketplace. We always like certainty, but we see the short game, I think. This is a long game type situation of trade, which automotive is now, because it's so important to industries, is an important way of getting someone's attention. Mm-hmm. And I think it's more complicated than we think. It's not just retribution. There's a plan here, but not well described to us. So we're left in the lurch. And I don't think we know what the final form of the tariffs will be until they're announced. So there's even uncertainty about uncertainty.
Yeah. As you know, I interviewed Senator Bernie Moreno, a car guy himself, about this very topic on Friday. And he laid out, for our viewers exactly how these tariffs will work, or at least gave us a little more information on them. And the more he talked, it seemed like it wasn't going to be as bad as I originally thought when you hear about 25% across the board on all these imports. But it's kind of a stair-step program with regard to parts and certain engines. And if the car is built in Mexico and Canada, there's some things built in the system to protect some of those. concerns, but or to answer some of those concerns. But I agree with you. I think that this is a long-term play that President Trump is thinking on this. So Cameron, let me get from you what is your take on this when this situation comes about and you hear 25% tariffs across the board.
Well, like Jeff alluded to, uncertainty is always hard in business because we like to be able to make a decision and then go with it. For us, it's really right now reassuring our customers, reassuring our employees, trying to maintain the best we can on the market, both on new cars and balancing our inventory and how there may be some price impacts, but also there's an immediate impact in the used car market. And we were already in a situation like we have been for the past 5 years on the used car market, having a major shortage. Fewer off-lease vehicles was already something we were facing this year. And so used car prices had already been holding steady. And, perhaps it might be a brand by brand or even a model by model cases on which we'll see the biggest impact. But there definitely is going to be an impact. And there's going to be an impact on our customers, even for just the customer that's out of warranty that has a repair, a customer pay repair, that there's a part attached to it. And that part may well be 25% higher, or it could be even more than that. We just don't know. And then that trickles down to every consumer that has a vehicle. If they were in a car accident and they've got an insurance claim, the price to repair a car is only potentially going to go up in this situation, at least in the short term.
Sure. There's about 3 million cars currently sitting on dealers' lots across the country. Those won't be impacted. Does that give you any calm at all during this to say, well, maybe things will change by the time we're receiving more cars in from our manufacturers, and you've got a lot full of cars now to sell?
Well, that's the good thing is that most manufacturers do have a healthy day supply. It had been higher in months past for us, but it's in shape right now, and we do have a great pipeline coming. So it just depends on how long this is going to last. If it's permanent, I do think there's a long-term plan, but I don't know. And I don't know that anybody knows whether it's going to be a flat 25% forever or whether this will continue to be a negotiating tactic. So in the short term, there's definitely going to be disruption. I know, one of our brands is continuing to build vehicles on the Mexico side, but they're going to maybe wait to ship them until they can determine what the tariff might be. And in another case, the same manufacturer got as many vehicles as they could across the border. Even though they're not ready to ship to dealers, they got as many as they could to Texas until they finish those vehicles and then ship them, just trying to all balance the best we can our businesses.
Jeff, do you think that this is the right move for the president to take in order to correct the unfairness in our trade policies with other countries? And even though it's hurting us in the short term, do you think it's the right move?
Car affordability is an issue already. I think gas cars may have been subsidized in some with the transition to electrification. We've seen much higher prices, and the affordability is compounded with higher interest rates.
Yeah.
Now, the administration's goal is to lower energy prices, which is a reduction in cost to every person and every company in the country, and also reduce interest rates, which would improve affordability. But I think the long game with this we have to look at is something that's very interesting. Everyone in the Titanic was safe until they hit the iceberg. This country is headed in the wrong path.
Yeah.
We have a budget deficits of $2 trillion with receipts of $4 trillion. I mean, we're spending $6 trillion. That cannot continue forever.
Right.
I read a really good article from an economist on Unheard, and basically, what's happened is the dollar is the global reserve currency. It is the most stable, most valuable currency, and countries are hoarding the dollar. And they're taking those dollars and buying our debt. And so we're like a drunken sailor.
Yeah.
Our dollar is worth a lot. We can buy a lot of stuff with a very valuable dollar. It takes our industry out of the country to go to areas where it's cheaper to produce. And basically, this is unsustainable because once our debt gets so big, they will start selling those dollars, start funding our debt, and our economy will simply collapse.
Right.
So the tariffs are a way to get other countries to stop hoarding their dollars and kind of revalue the dollar, which means basically that would get us out of this situation. And they would, in fact, if they revalue the dollar, they would take the cost of tariffs and not us. So there's a long game to this. The question is, if in full form, the 25%, as they present it, it's actually ruinous to the car industry. They don't have these kinds of margins. The manufacturers
Right.
don't. And it would be ruinous. Some manufacturers are obviously weaker than others. So I think this is simply a game of leverage
Hmm.
to get concessions.
Hmm.
And it's nothing like hitting automotive because it's so valuable, creates so many jobs, it's so big a
Right.
part of the economy that they're gonna take automotive on as an example to get concessions.
Sure.
And if they get those concessions and get a more level playing field, that'd be great for our country and our growth going forward.
Sure.
But in the short term, it could be something. Can they pass on 25%, 20%, 10%? There's only so much room in the car right now with margins.
Right.
Some would have to be absorbed, some passed on. But I'm hopeful that the long game, it might have some short-term damage
Hmm.
or harm. But the long game might be really good for this country and for car sales
Yeah. Yeah.
in general. So no pain, no gain,
Yeah.
and we'll see how this plays out.
Dan Bannister has joined the conversation. He's the owner of Bannister Automotive Group, and so Dan, the timing is perfect. What's your take on the president's comment of couldn't care less if auto prices rise because of the tariffs?
I see it as a negotiation ploy myself. I mean, I think that he's trying to call bluff on some of the other countries and the manufacturers. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I think it's a negotiation tactic.
So not a major concern that you've got right now about the 25% tariffs on vehicles. You're thinking it's more of a play.
No, I mean, I think we all look at it personally how it's going to impact our business, and most of the brands that I have, most of the vehicles are made here in the United States. I mean, and looking at they really haven't rolled out how that will impact us if it goes up. How much are going to be 25% of the parts and the cars and all that kind of stuff. And the car business and car dealers, we're resilient. I mean, got through COVID, we got through. A big one for me was shift into electrification. That was a big one, because the federal government was telling us what we should sell and all that. 2008, the financial crisis, the home car, we got through that. Rise in interest rates. We've seen it all, and we will always figure out a way to survive.
Yeah.
We just need to know the rules of the games, and we'll figure it out. And obviously, we don't want 25% increase on cars and all that kind of stuff. But you got to look at this. So over the last 3 or 4 years, we had a significant increase on the price of cars, a significant increase on the interest rates, and we've still been able to survive and get through all that. And I guess if this is something that's not just temporary, then it'll be another hurdle that we have to figure it out. But one thing that, as the real estate market and the car business goes, so does our economy, and we need to make sure that we're there and we're ready to go and to be able to shift and move whenever need be.
Dan, do you think that that this in the long term, in fact, I interviewed Senator Bernie Moreno, and he sees this as a national security issue that we need to have more manufacturing here at home on U.S. soil. Do you see it like that it could be a national security issue?
I do, and I think it's not just the car industry is only part of it. But I think that COVID really showed us that we don't manufacture as much stuff as that we need to and that we should, and we have to be self-sufficient. It's great that we were able to get low-cost goods, for temporarily from other countries and all that, but we need to not be reliant upon other countries to supply the goods and services that we need. And I think this is a step in the right direction. It's not really. I don't think all of us weren't really ready for that, but we saw what Trump promised that he was going to do when he ran for office, and now he's just fulfilling the promise. And whether you're a fan of his or not, you have to see value in more stuff being made here in the United States and offering higher performing, higher paying jobs and jobs that don't require a 4 or 8 year degree, that people can go get a really good income and make a career like it used to be back in the day with the automotive industry and the steel industry and many other manufacturing industries. And one of the things I remember one of the politicians said, a few years back that manufacture would never come back to the United States. Well, I think that right now we're seeing that it can, and I've seen reports of different car companies changing the perspective and bringing the manufacturing back here to the United States. So I think that anytime that we can build and produce things here in the United States is always a good thing.
No question about it. Cameron, do you think that'll get the job done? You think that OEMs will sit up and say, hey, we need to start building factories immediately on U.S. soil?
Well, I think the uncertainty plays to them as well, because building a plant doesn't happen overnight. And
Right.
so they need to know if these tariffs are going to be permanent. Well, then sure, maybe a 3-year plan is to make a big financial commitment to new plants here. But if it's temporary, then everything didn't have the effect that it was supposed to have.
Right.
If this did go away in 8 weeks. So we're just going to have to all see how this shakes out. But it's definitely got all the OEMs and all the countries sort of on their heels right now.
Yeah, that's right. Jeff, BMW actually ships out more vehicles out of the U.S. from their facility in South Carolina than they actually sell here. Is that possible that we're going to start to see U.S. as the number one leader among foreign brands, not just building them here, but shipping them across the border?
I think that's the biggest BMW plant in the world, in South Carolina. They export like half their cars.
Yeah.
It takes so many years to build a plant.
Yeah.
And we have overproduction already. The government has subsidized massive amounts of construction for EVs and battery facilities.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of surplus production. I mean, they could probably convert maybe some of the EV plants. They're hopeful to close their ICE plants, and then they'll have an EV plant. Everything will be the same, but it's not going to be like that. They have to keep their ICE based on Trump's policies, which are probably the right ones. Keep the ICE plants open. Now you have underutilized EV plant. So maybe those EV plants could be more, build different types of products.
Sure.
I'll tell you, it's very tough right now to be a manufacturer, because most of them are global manufacturers. In China, is a very important market, biggest in the world, 10 million more than the United States.
Yeah.
They're pushing, the Chinese domestic brands are pushing the foreigners out, and they're all losing market share, which is
That's right.
costing them. And then Europe's going 100% EV by 2035, and we're going to go consumer decides EV level of adoption. I mean, these are all three different markets. And now you add the tariffs on top. I mean, the manufacturers are in a rock and a hard place. And when the manufacturers get weakened, the dealers are going to feel the brunt of that.
That's
So,
right.
my
Yeah.
concern is the global market and all these moving parts.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I agree with Jeff. So, looking at what the manufacturers had to deal with EV, they had to have and the EPA mandates that they had, and they had to fit all their cars that they were building into this little thing. And and one of the brands that I had got fined millions of dollars because they didn't hit those standards. So you're talking about focusing all these dollars against EV where the market isn't there, or the society is not ready for that mass adoption, and all these manufacturers spending all this money on EVs. I mean, that's really impacted the manufacturers too. So I agree. I mean, the manufacturers, I'd be pulling my hair out if I were them, because you got it coming from the federal government, you got it from the EV mandates, the EPA mandates. You got consumers trying to figure out this and what's the right car and what do I do this. And when we went through COVID, and it seemed like everybody wanted a EV at that time, or I think that was right around the time. And then we came out of that, and then hardly anybody wanted. I mean, because I remember I have a Ford dealership. We had the Lightning that people were waiting. We had 300,000 orders.
I know.
Now
Yeah.
we don't have any orders. So
That's right.
I mean, it's just interesting how it all pans out, and that's why I said the manufacturers have it bad, and the dealerships are just waiting to see what the rules of the game are. We'll figure it out. But obviously, we don't want tariffs, because it impacts the customer. It's going to impact us, and it's going to impact the manufacturer. But if it's going to bring back manufacturing, and this is just my opinion, that if it's going to bring back manufacturing to the United States, I think that's a good thing, and I would be willing to take a little bit of pain short term in order to make that happen. But long term, it's not something that we want to see, I think, as a dealer body and as consumers.
So if you had the president's ear, and maybe you do, maybe he watches CBT news every morning to get the real news about the automotive industry. But if he were listening, let's just kind of make believe right now. What would your message be to him? Stay the course? I mean, I'm hearing that you're very supportive of where we are and where we need to be. And if there's a little bit of pain, so be it. But what would your message be to him?
I mean, I think that we do need to stay the course, and again, I hope this isn't a long-term, play. I don't want to have a Ukraine war or whatever, Russia war, but,
Yeah.
I'd like to, hit it between the eyes real quick and and hopefully, that will get the manufacturers to want to bring their plants back here and to build more. And again, but most of mine already are building cars. But one of the things that I think that would really help the car business and our consumers is one thing that he mentioned is being able to deduct interest off of your tax returns.
Right.
And I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to remember when I believe you could do that and your interest off your credit card statements. I believe those are two of the things, but I think that would probably spur the automotive industry. If you buy a car that's made in the United States, it doesn't matter the brand, just if it's built there, that you can deduct that off your income tax returns. I think that would be huge for a lot of consumers, especially with the amount of terms. We went from the average term from 48 to 60 to 72, and now we're looking at going all the way out to 84 months. And with the increase in interest rates and the cars and increase in goods, I mean, that would be a well received in the in America, I believe.
That's right. And Cameron, let me ask you: are you doing anything today differently, or maybe I should say, on April 2nd, differently in your running your operation than what you've done before because of the tariffs? Do you have any kind of a strategy or anything that you're saying, okay, let's pull the lever on this?
Well, we definitely had anticipation that this was going to be the hard date. We got the 30-day extension, and then I told my team it's going to happen in some capacity.
Yeah.
Still don't know if 25% is going to be the number, but I think it is.
Sure.
But I think we definitely started acquiring more inventory over the past 60 days for used cars. And we also went out and I've seen dealers make different decisions on this. I've seen dealers say they wanted to bring down their inventory because they think sales are going to negatively be affected come end of May, June, when these things have sort of hit, if you will. We did sort of the opposite, and we started taking as much inventory as we can, even though interest rates are where they are. We feel like if other dealers were turning down inventory, then come the summer months, we might be the dealer with inventory. You'll have to check back to see which one of us is right, but that's kind of where we are right now.
Yeah. And how about you, Dan? Are you doing anything different in your business today because of the tariffs?
No, I mean, as a going to speaking to individual customer, maybe, hey, this is, to try to motivate them to make a decision now. But, we have stepped up our used car inventory and we've delayed the sale of some of our wholesale cars because we expect the market to go up some. So
Yeah.
a few things like that, but, we're trying to do business as usual,
Yeah.
and who knows, we can. I think Cameron and Jeff and all of us will probably have a little bit different philosophy and approach to how we're going to deal with this. And some of us will probably be similar. Some of us will be totally different. But I mean, I appreciate Cameron's, approach to it, taking on all the inventory. And, I was one of the ones back when COVID hit that I stopped taking all the new car inventory from Nissan. And then I got burned because I didn't have any inventory. So, I mean, you're rolling the dice. I mean, who knows?
Is.
I mean, this
Right.
could be. He could announce tomorrow that everything is, that's back to normal, and
Sure.
all the manufacturers have agreed. So I think that there's going to be a lot of deal making behind the scenes.
Sure.
With the manufacturers. Hey, I'm going to promise that we're going to bring back X amount of, manufacturing in the United States or whatever. And I think that's probably, each manufacturer is going to have to stand on its own, and we'll see which ones do the best job of negotiation. And that's the ones that will probably be the least impacted by the tariffs, in my opinion. Sure.
Cameron, I didn't ask you, but so I want to give you the opportunity. If you had an audience with Trump, what would you tell them right now about this as a big auto group? And, what would you want them to know about?
Well, I think April 2nd is going to come and go. I think after that fact or after that date, it's going to be a matter of what kind of certainty do we get? Are these definitely here to stay? Are we just waiting for, said other country or said OEM to make an announcement or to make a change? And then are these things going to change in 6 or 8 weeks? I think it's more so just giving us as business leaders certainty so we can have the same with our customers and our team members.
Yeah, and I think you speak for so many dealers. They just, and the market. It's that uncertainty that kills us all, or gets to us, I should say. Not kills us, but gets to us. And I agree with you, Dan. We the industry has been through so many different things, and And now we're dealing with this one, and we will get through it. That's what dealers do. Very resilient. They'll find a way, and so will the OEMs for that matter. I'm sure we'll see very aggressive pricing and leasing programs that come out and all kinds of things to roll iron. And that's what it's all about. Keep the factories moving, keep the car dealers happy, and we'll figure out a way around this, right? I mean, that's seems to be.
We always do.
Yeah, I speak to so many dealers, and that seems to be the consensus out there. So. Dan Bannister. What's that?
The keys are a negative to a positive. I think the message I want to do is beat the tariffs. Now's a great time to buy. And then hopefully the thing works itself out by the end of the month. So I think the key is turning a negative to a positive. And that's a hell of a message for people, and they'll get it. So maybe that's the message we should have. Beat the tariffs. I'm going to call my marketing guy right now. That's my message starting tomorrow morning. Okay.
Yeah, Jeff, I think I'm going to have to steal that one.
There's method to the madness.
Hey, we've got tariff-free inventory right now.
Yeah, there you go. Tariff-free inventory. That's right.
There's method to the madness. He doesn't do a good job explaining it. But the fact we take it so seriously, hopefully it's effective leverage to kind of get a more even playing field in trade, which leads to long-term prosperity. When people are making money, feeling good, they buy cars. So we're a byproduct of those things. And hopefully that's what will be accomplished.
That's right. I agree. Well, Jeffrey Pohanka, NADA board member and chairman of Pohanka Automotive Group, Dan Bannister, owner of Bannister Automotive Group, and Cameron Johnson, chairman and CEO of Magic City Auto Group. Gentlemen, thank you so much for giving me all the time that you did today to discuss this very important issue. And I'm leaving this conversation feeling a lot better about the tariffs, because it sounds like you've all come up with a solution to work in your particular markets. So thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Here's a concise summary of the AIA American International Automobile Dealers Association, statement. AIATA warns new tariffs will hurt dealers' consumers. Published April 2nd, 2025, Alexandria, VA. AIATA President and CEO Cody Lusk issued a statement ahead of the implementation of 25% tariffs on all imported vehicles and parts, set to take effect at midnight under President Trump's directive. Key points. Dealerships were unusually busy this week as dealers and buyers rushed to finalize purchases before tariffs hit. AIATA warns the tariffs, while well-intended, will raise prices on all vehicle brands, strain family budgets, lower auto sales, jeopardize dealership jobs. Consumers are already reacting to the financial impact, signaling widespread concern. For more details, AIATA recommends viewing its Economic Impact Report at aiata.org. Let me know if you'd like this tailored for a dealer advisory or policy briefing. Here's a concise summary of the Ward's Auto article. Cox Automotive lowers 2025 sales forecast amid Trump's tariffs. Published March 31st, 2025, by Jim Henry. Cox Automotive has revised its 2025 U.S. auto sales forecast downward due to the anticipated disruption from President Trump's 25% tariffs on imported vehicles and parts. Key forecast changes. New vehicle sales now projected at 15.6 MEM to 16.3 METR units, down from 16.3 MEM. Used vehicle sales revised to 38.0 MEM, with a wider range reflecting uncertainty. Tariff impacts expected to cause higher vehicle prices, reduced production, shrinking dealer inventories, potential elimination of high tariff models. Cox expects the Manheim Used Vehicle Value Index to increase 2.8%, previously 1.4%. Affordability concerns. Half of affordable U.S. vehicles are made in Mexico and Canada, which may also face tariffs. OEMs and suppliers face higher wholesale costs and may pass them to consumers. Industry reaction. American Automotive Policy Council supports U.S. production but warns against raising consumer prices. Trump administration urges automakers not to hike sticker prices, but cost pressure remains. Dealer-specific insights. Brands with high inventory, Ford, Hyundai, Jeep, may benefit short-term. Brands with low inventory, Toyota, Subaru, could face even tighter supply. Average Q1 incentives are down to 7.1% of MSRP, a sign of reduced manufacturer support. Incentive levels are falling, signaling weaker negotiation flexibility for consumers. Let me know if you'd like a dealership-facing version with pricing strategy recommendations.